Thank you. I didn't notice. Thank you, Mr. Musser. Thank you, Mr. Musser. Welcome to the Board of Education regular meeting. Our regular meetings are a time for the board to conduct its business. As the Board of Education, we're here to set goals, listen to reports of the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, and personnel appointments, and make policy for the district. The board may hear public participation for up to 60 minutes. Public participation shall be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. One speaker cannot yield their time to another speaker. There will be no responses this evening to any questions or concerns raised. They will be referred to the administration for review. As adults, we serve as positive role models for our students. Please be respectful of everyone. We ask speakers not to make defamatory comments or use abusive or vulgar language. Thank you. And with that, I would also like to start. I would like to begin again with a moment of silence to honor the memory of Daley Jackson, who died as a result of gun violence only days after we lost his friend and Riverside schoolmate Uzziah Shell. Daley was a quiet, introspective, compassionate young man with a fierce sense of loyalty. We will remain loyal to his memory. Thank you. Another brief statement. As you may know, my term as a board member of the New Haven Board of Education expires at the end of this month. I regret to inform you that I will not be returning to the board for another term to continue my service. However, I will remain on until the new board member is sworn in. I have served on this board for 5.5 years, 4 of them as president. I am proud that throughout that time, I have brought my honest self to this work. I have served with integrity and I have done everything in my power to support the effective functioning of this board. My goal has always been to serve all members of the school district while at the same time lending my voice for the growing Latino population within the city. I am honored and proud of all that we have achieved under my tenure as president, including selecting the first Latina superintendent, Doctora Madeline Negron. During the time I have served, we also have faced significant challenges. The pandemic disrupted teaching and learning, as well as district operations. Our finances continue to limit the district's ability to provide our students with all of the programming and the emotional support they need and deserve, let alone with school buildings that fully support teaching and learning. I am confident that my colleagues on the board will continue to address these challenges, working alongside the city's leadership and our delegation in Hartford. I am proud that our city and our district will continue to stand up for those among us who are vulnerable for whatever reason. To paraphrase a former board member, those of us who have served might not always agree, but we have been united as passionate supporters of our schools. To all of my colleagues and to our students, teachers, staff, and families, I thank you for your confidence, the confidence you've placed in me during my tenure. Thank you. Okay, and so we'll move on to the agenda items, the first being public participation. Dr. White, Dr. Joyner, Ms. Camacho.
Our first speaker is Melody Gallagher.
evening. My name is Melody Gallagher.
That's the,
Good evening. My name is Melody Gallagher, New Haven resident and NHPS visual art teacher at Wilbercross. I'm here tonight alongside our Wilbercross SPM teacher and CTE teacher, Ashley Yannick. Wilbercross, as you know, is the largest school in New Haven Public Schools with close to 2,000 people attending daily, inclusive of both students and staff. Unlike inter-district magnet schools, as a neighborhood comprehensive high school, we have no cap on accepting students, so it seems. We welcome new students weekly, if not daily, throughout the school year. Additionally, new staff members are welcomed to our diverse community each year from various backgrounds, countries, and cultures. We do our best to make all families and caregivers feel welcome as the crucial Wilbercross community members that they are. At Wilbercross, we recognize that despite our differences, we are one community, inclusive of all, and we feel important for the larger New Haven Public Schools Board of Education and New Haven community to know this. As such, the Wilbercross SPMT has come to consensus on a statement reflecting these 5 values, which I will read into the record as public comment at this time. The SPMT of Wilbercross community is reaffirming our commitment to be a welcoming school for all and to protect students, staff, and families who are of various immigration statuses, gender identities, sexual orientation, religions, and/or different abilities, as similar schools, districts, and organizations have begun to do in the light of recent events. Therefore, be it hereby resolved by the Wilbercross SPMT that 1, Wilbercross High School welcomes all students, staff, and their families, regardless of immigration status, country of origin, gender identity, sexual orientation, religion, or disability. Number 2, Wilbercross will work alongside New Haven Public School District leaders, union partners, immigration advocates to provide support for students and staff and their families on immigrant rights, understanding various legal statuses, and the overall health and well-being of those affected. Number 3, Wilbercross will work alongside NHPS district leaders, union partners, and LGBTQIA+ advocates to provide support for students, staff, and their families on LGBTQIA+ issues, understanding various legal rights, the overall health and well-being of those affected. Number 4, Wilbercross will work alongside New Haven Public School District leaders, union partners, and community partners to provide support for students, staff, and their families on religious discrimination, such as xenophobia and Islamophobia, understanding various legal rights, and the overall health and well-being of those affected. And last, number 5, Wilbercross will work alongside NHPS district leaders, union partners, and disability advocates to provide support for students, staff, and their families on disability issues, understanding various legal rights, and the overall health and well-being of those affected. Thank you. We look forward to working alongside our superintendent, the New Haven Public Schools Board of Education, and city leaders in creating welcoming school environments for all. And I'm here in solidarity with 217 tonight.
Our next speaker is Claudine Chambers.
Again, don't start my time yet. To Dr. McGrone and board members, good evening. Now you can start my timer. Good evening, everyone. Here I am again, a paraeducator in New Haven. I've been here over half a century and I don't make $30,000. It hurts when people ask me how much I make. I sell about $5 a week. We can't live on what we take home. We got a raise, a little bit of raise. The insurance went up, so we take home less money. How fair is that? It's very difficult for me to live a single person what I take home every 2 weeks. Sometimes I can't even meet my monthly bills, so I have to call the people and say, it's gonna be a little late. Please don't charge me late fees. And they are nice enough not to charge me late fees, and I'm grateful. But I would be even more grateful for a livable contract and a fair contract that treat us the way we are told that we are needed and appreciated. So let's get it right, not to be insulting to anybody. Let's just get it right together so we can live together in peace, harmony, and a good equitable contract. The money that's being spent for these lawyers, they did not pay. Equipment for the students, put in field trips for the students. Students don't even get to go on field trips anymore. They would learn more on a field trip in a day than they would learn in a classroom in a week. I've experienced that. So come on, let's get it right together because we're one big family in New Haven school system. Let's live like a big family in unity. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Yasanea Hernandez.
Let me know when to start. Good evening, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Jasana Hernandez, and I stand before you today. We stand you before you today, not just as a dedicated employee of the New Haven Food Service Department, but as a proud member of this community and a parent of children who also attend New Haven Public Schools. I have been fortunate to work for the Food Service Department for over 20 years. And 2 decades of service, commitment, and dedication to providing our children with the nutrition meals that fuels their minds and bodies for academic success. Today, I am here to urge the city of New Haven to prioritize settling our contract fairly. We are not merely employees, we are your neighbors, your friends, and your family, deeply invested in the education and well-being of the children we serve every day. We share the same goals to see our children thrive in an environment that fosters growth, learning, and opportunity. However, to achieve that goal, we need your support and understanding. The food service workers in New Haven are committed individuals who work tirelessly to ensure that every student has access to healthy and appetizing meals, yet we are facing challenges that we can no longer be ignored. Our contract does not adequately reflect the hard work and dedication we put in our roles every day. A fair contract is not just about wages and benefits. It is also about respecting the labor and dedication of those who make it their mission to nourish our children. A fair contract will not only empower us as employees, but will also send a powerful message to our children about the value of hard work and dedication. When our contributions are recognized and fairly compensated, we can continue to provide our very best for the students and family of New Haven. I want to stress the importance of this issue, not just for my colleagues and me, but also for the students who rely on us. My own children attend New Haven Public Schools, and like all parents, I want them to receive the best education possible. In essence, I'm asking for your support in creating a fair, just contract for New Haven Food Service Department. Let us work together to ensure that the individuals who serve our children are treated with respect and dignity they deserve. By settling this contract fairly, we will not only support the hardworking staff, but also set a positive example for our community, showing that we value every member who contributes to the growth and success of our children. Together, let's foster a community where everyone is valued, where hard work is recognized, and where our children can thrive in an environment of support and care. Thank you for your time of consideration. I hope we get this contract settled before Christmas. That would be a nice gift. Thank you and have a wonderful night.
Our next speaker is Josh Stanley.
Let's go, Josh. Good evening, brothers and sisters. My name is Joshua Stanley, and I'm the Secretary Treasurer of Local 217 Unite Here, which represents food service workers at the New Haven Public Schools. We have been trying to negotiate a fair contract for our members since April. Contract expired in June of this year. I am concerned about how long this is taking. I am concerned too when I hear about contract as the schools. I am concerned about the custodial workers at the schools. These are all lower wage workers. of lower wage workers and view equality in our city. I'm concerned too about the message that this communicates to the residents of our city, and especially to the children in our schools. Many of these children come from economically disadvantaged families. According to the Board of Ed's own data, over 75% of the children are from these families. These children rely on the meals that the cafeteria workers prepare. What message does it send to our children when they see that workers at their schools, who may remind them of their own family, have only become poorer over the past few years, as their paychecks cover less and less their weekly bills? What future does this imply for the children of economically disadvantaged families when they see these workers left behind? And what tolerance does it suggest that the school's leadership has for growing inequality and rising poverty? We ask that you not leave these workers behind. People say that with me. Don't leave. Please give them a fair contract now.
Our next speaker is Heidi Tirado.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Heidi Tirado. I work at Rose Football School for 14 years. And I'm a local 217 also too. I love my job. I feed in the kids. I know kids need full bellies to be available to focus in school. Made me happy to do it with pride. However, because the inflation, I'm struggling to pay bills. It's not fair that I had to get out. I'm here to urge the Board of Education not to leave cafeteria workers behind and settle a contract with us. And I want to say something else. I had lupus. Maybe you don't see it. You don't see it from outside. But I really, really struggling with jobs. Sometimes my legs get swelling very bad. And I think it's not fair because we don't have a nice contract and we don't get paid enough that I had to take a third job. I work in 7:30 to 9 every day, Monday to Friday, and it's very, very hard. And we need that contract. Please, all the workers work with hard, and we deserve a better contract. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sandra Williams. Sandra Williams.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for showing up for our union. I really appreciate it. My name is Sandra Williams, and I worked for the New Haven Public School cafeteria for almost 10 years. I work at Obama School, and I'm a member of this local union, 217. I love my job because of the kids. They're so sweet and respectable. And sometimes they're so innocent and cute that they really lift me up and make my day because I'm there for them. I love being with them every day. I work now. I used to work at Hill House High School during the pandemic. And the kids and their parents were so grateful to receive a meal, even when we were out of school. We have provided an essential service for kids of New Haven. But because of inflation, I've been having trouble helping my own children. I help my grandchildren and by babysitting and pitching in so their parents can have a second job. My bills have all gone up from groceries, utilities, car insurance, and it's very hard for us to sit there and work so hard each and every day and see our paychecks, and it almost make me cry. It does. Um, the Board of Ed needs not to leave cafeteria workers behind. Settle a fair contract with us that helps all our families with dignity. I'm very grateful for our superintendent who have gave me an award for being one of the most best cafeteria workers. Thank you for the flowers and the attention that you gave me. But please, we do need a fair contract right now. Thank you, everyone.
Our next speaker is Shelley White. Shell White.
My name is Shelley Wake Bowen.
Shelley's voice started breaking just a few hours ago, so I'm going to read her testimony for her. My name is Henry Schmidt. I'm going to speak for Shelley. So my name is Shelley Waite, and I've worked at the New Haven Public School cafeteria for 9 years. I work at King Robinson School, and I'm a member of my union, Local 217. Unite here. I love my job feeding the kids. I know kids need full bellies to be able to focus in school, and it makes me happy to know that I help all kids in New Haven get a chance at a great education. However, because of inflation, I'm not able to give the same opportunity to my family. I am struggling to pay my daughter's tuition at Gateway right now. I help kids in New Haven learn. It's not fair that my family doesn't get the same opportunity. I'm here today to urge the Board of Ed not to leave cafeteria workers behind and settle a contract with us that allows my family the same opportunities to learn and grow that I know we hope all children in New Haven receive. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Shumalai Dashari. Shumalai Dashari.
All right. Woo! My name is Shamilia. This is Yoruba. This is Nick, Carly, and Darrell. We local 217 all the way. We work at Southern Connecticut State University. I've been there 33 years. Ruba been there. Nick.
30.
20.
And we're here right now to make sure they do not get left behind. You know, my granddaughters go to New Haven Public Schools. I got 3 of them in there. And I'm hoping you guys get a fair contract. This got to happen. You know, we need everybody to get a fair contract in New Haven. And we hope you guys get a fair contract. Nobody get left behind. None of us in New Haven. We all stick together. We are here to fight. We're here to fight with you. We're going to win this. Come on. Make it happen.
Our next speaker is Leslie Blatteau. Leslie Blatteau. Leslie Blatteau. Last call. Last call.
Ms. Camacho, please call the next name. If
Last-
it's not heard, we'll
last
move
call.
on.
Last call. Last
Call-
call
call-
for Leslie Blatteau. Last call
I'm
for
just gonna
Leslie
say
Blatteau.
this really quickly. We need to keep order in the room. We're gonna call the next name. If it's not heard, we're gonna continue moving on. We are listening to your testimony. We need you all to be respectful.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Leslie Blatteau. I'm the president of the New Haven Federation of Teachers and want to proudly state that our union stands in solidarity with Local 217 as you fight for a fair contract. I want to highlight today that New Haven values are on display today. New Haven values, first of all, at our staff meetings earlier today, when many of our members and other employees in this district learned about how to prepare for what's coming with the Trump presidency. That's New Haven values. New Haven values are on display tonight when we hear the Wilbur-Cross SPMT get up and talk about how is New Haven going to take care of each other as we get ready for what's to come at the federal level. New Haven values are on display tonight when we see unionized workers and community coalitions come here and do what is your right to do, which is demand a fair contract and state clearly that you should not be left behind. Ms. Claudine said it. She said, let's get it right together. Because we know police, they got their raises. We know teachers in 2022 and 2023, we got our raises. We know admin get their raises. We know folks at central office get their raises. We also know 3 or 4% of $150,000 is a lot more than 3% of $20,000. So let's be real when we talk about what kind of solutions people are looking for at the bargaining table. And we know that schools cannot and will not function, of course, without teachers, yes, but let's talk about the work behind the scenes that doesn't get the attention that it deserves. The work of our brothers and sisters in the para union and the work of cafeteria workers. We know that when our students are coming to us, that period before lunch, they're a little bit scoochy, let's be real. And then we know after they're able to get their bellies fed because of your work, they come to us much more able to focus and do the work that we know we want them to do. And we know that so many of you are the parents and grandparents of our students, and it only makes sense to make sure that you all get a fair contract before the holiday so that you can continue to do what you do for our students inside of school and do what you do for your own children and families outside of school. So let's continue to make New Haven values shine here. If New Haven values really are on display, we're coming together to fight against what we know is going to come from the federal government. We're coming together to call on Yale to pay more, to call on the state of Connecticut to pay more, and invest in New Haven so that New Haven can make sure we settle contracts with workers like you all here tonight. We are with you every step of the way, and we are here for you as you fight for your fair contract. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Luz M. Luz M. Luz M. I'll continue. Our next speaker is Heiklis Williams.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Heiklis Williams. I'm the president for Local 3429, the paraprofessional unions of New Haven Public Schools. And I'm happy today to see the support that the para union is getting because I've been saying it time and time again, years in and years out, that we've been undervalued, underpaid, and to see the support we have tonight, I'm so happy. This is what I love about New Haven. New Haven is a hometown. New Haven, we look out for each other, and I am so happy and so proud to see you guys come out in abundance today to support each other. I support the cafeteria workers and all the local, the pawns, I would call them, the ones that are treated as pawns on this board. here that we do all this work and we don't get the compensation and we don't get the recognition. We get a verbal recognition, but when it comes to a salary, we all suffer. Why do you think there's not a ton of paras standing here now? Because they're doing after-school programs to continue to support their students even when school is out. They're still there supporting students, have to work 2 and 3 jobs in order to maintain a living. That is just not fair. It's just not right that we live in a community that's a rich community. Connecticut is one of the richest states, and we can't get living fair wages. That's just not right. We need to change that. We need to change that. Our contract has been expired for since 2023. And we still can't reach anywhere. I think we should know how much money is costing the board to pay for top-notch attorneys to fight to pay us down. This is what is happening. Attorneys are being paid big money, lots of money, and we can't get that money reflected in our pay. Ms. Claudine says it, half a century of service, $30,000. I don't even get $30,000. We don't have a pension. She can't retire. She can't retire. That's why she's still working with no dignity. As soon as you get $1 increase, your insurance goes up by $5. So you're still always taking home less pay. We have to do something different. And when we complained in prior years, the board formed what they call a wage equity committee to look at what the pawns are making and to make sure that there's equity amongst the staff in New Haven. That committee seemed to be defunct. Nothing has happened since then. Everybody knows what happened. I complained about it, talked about it, and absolutely nothing happened. Why was it formed? And why is it not functioning now? I would like to know that. I would like to know how much it costs for attorney fee to pay us down, how much it will continue to cost for attorney fee to pay us down. That needs to change. It's about time. It's about time we do something different in New Haven, man. This is not fair. It's just not right. And we need to get fair and equitable wages. Thank you.
That would be time.
Our last speaker, I'm not sure if this is the double or we have 2 people with the same name, is Sandra Williams. Okay, so that would be. Huh? Maya Jackson went at number 6. Oh.
Hello, my name is Maya Jackson. I am a lead cook at the high school in the community. And I am a local 217 United here. It's important that you hear my story, and I think it's true for others. I go above and beyond because I love the kids. I get great joy out of making them healthy food. Over the years, some of the kids I have served grown up and have kids in the system, and now to this day, they still call me Miss Maya out of respect. Now because of inflations, I can't barely afford food, pay rent. I work so hard for the city of New Haven because of the kids. I feel I am a loyal employee and it is not fair. I can barely make ends meet. The Board of Education to settle fair contract with us that keeps up with the cost of living. Don't leave us cafeteria workers behind. Thank you.
Yes.
That concludes public speaking.
Keith Redish here? Needs to come over. Oh God, she's sick now. And I'm sitting next to her, so it's like, what? What are we doing? I don't want to get sick. Uh-huh. ¿Cómo está? Okay, moving on our agenda, the approval of the board meeting minutes for November 25th. Is there a motion to approve?
So move. So move.
Thank you, Ms. Downer. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote to approve the November 25th meeting minutes. Ms. Downer,
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Dr. Joyner?
Yes.
Dr. Joyner?
Yes.
We'll come back to Dr. Joyner. Dr. Benitez?
I said yes.
Yes.
We can't hear
Yes.
them. Dr. White?
It does.
It says turn up volume on the screen. Hold on.
Can you hear me, Dr. Joyner?
I can hear you. And
Oh,
I just gave the
that.
thumbs up. I just saw Gladiator 2, so you know what thumbs up means.
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Online? Dr. Benitez, can you hear us?
We can hear
Well,
you.
Can you?
We can hear
Can you
you. Can
speak
you
to see if
hear
we can
us?
hear you? I guess that's what we needed.
Can you hear
Testing
us?
1, 2.
No, we still can't hear them.
Unfortunately, there's a Board of Alders hearing on the funding on
Dr. Benitez,
schools
keep
as well.
speaking. Read something to
So-
us
Yes,
Dr. White
well,
is
I'm
there.
going to write on
so
the
we can
chat.
figure out when we can hear you.
We can
There you go. We can hear you.
hear each other. Oh, you can
Yes.
hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, very good.
All right, so your vote on that, Dr. Benitez?
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Mr. Musser,
For you, please.
Ms. Colon,
Yes.
Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well, and so the minutes pass. Next item is the personnel report, Dr. Negron.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Apologies, I'm just getting my voice back, so I'm gonna try my best. Before I present the personnel report, Board, I am asking today for approval of our new coordinator of recruitment and retention. I am recommending to you Rolanda Booker. Ms. Booker is a dedicated educator with over 2 decades of experience in the field. She began her teaching career with the New Haven Public Schools, where she held various roles, including classroom teacher, tag teacher, and math instructional coach from 1996 to 2018. After that, Ms. Booker served as the assistant principal for 2 years at Smith Elementary School in New Britain. Since 2020, she has been the principal of North End Elementary School in New Britain. During her leadership, North End improved from a Tier 5 to a Tier 3, successfully shedding its focus school classification. This achievement was made possible through data-driven decision-making, fostering a culture of collaboration, and maintaining a steadfast focus on student outcomes. Passionate about mentorship and teacher development, Ms. Booker partnered with the teacher residency program at North End, mentoring 6 residents who have since successfully launched their teaching careers. She has also formed partnerships with local organizations, including Central Connecticut State University, the New Britain Police Department, and local churches to enhance the school community and expand student opportunities. Among her initiatives, Ms. Booker has led the creation of school-based advisory clubs to address social-emotional learning and improve student engagement. Additionally, she has participated in several district-wide communities. She is committed to equity and excellence, empowering educators and students to achieve their fullest potential. So tonight, again, it is my pleasure to recommend her as Coordinator of Recruitment and Retention, replacing Sarah Diggs. That completes my personal report.
Thank you, Dr. Negron. Is there a motion to approve the personnel report?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Is there a second? Thank you, Dr. Benitez. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote to approve the action items of the personnel report. Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Dr. Benitez?
Yes.
Ms. Downer?
Yes.
Dr. Joyner?
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough?
Yes.
Mr. Musser?
Yes.
Ms. Colon?
Yes.
Mayor Elicker?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well, and so that item passes. Congratulations. Did anyone want to say a
And
few words?
if we could ask Ms. Booker to come up for a few remarks.
Good evening, everyone, and it's so good to be back home where I started from. I want to thank the board and especially Dr. Negron for giving me this opportunity and trusting me with taking on this big task that I'm up for. I want to thank my family, my sons and my daughter and my 2 grandchildren for all their support and their love all the time. And for my colleagues that come from different districts, thank you for your support. I appreciate it. I'm excited to start this work in New Haven on something that I'm passionate about and that's close to my heart. I'm also humbled to continue something that will make a meaningful impact on the students and help build a strong community within New Haven. I'm honored to be a part of a team dedicated to recruiting and fostering staff for the benefit of all the students of New Haven, and I look forward to being part of a team that will positively impact how we will be as a district. Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Our next item is the memorandum of understanding with the city of New Haven. Mr. Wilcox?
Yes, thank you. I move that we approve a memorandum of understanding with the City of New Haven authorizing New Haven Public Schools to serve as a sub-award recipient of coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds in the amount of $5.5 million for school facility capital improvements from July 1, 2024 to December 31, 2026.
A second.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox and Dr. Yarborough. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote to approve the memorandum of understanding with the city of New Haven. Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough?
Yes.
Dr. Joyner?
Joyfully, yes.
Dr. Benitez?
Yes.
Ms. Downer?
Yes.
Ms. Colon?
Yes.
Mr. Musser?
Yes.
Mayor Elicker?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well, and so that item passes. Next item is the proposed 25-26 Board of Education Committee meetings. Mr. Wilcox?
Yes, I move that we approve the proposed 2025-2026 Board of Education Committee meetings.
There's a
Second.
second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox and Dr. Joyner. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote to approve the 24-25 Board of Education Committee meetings. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Ms. Downer,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Mr. Musser,
Yes.
Ms. Golong,
Yes.
Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well, and so that item passes. The next item is the 24-25 academic calendar. Dr. Negron?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am asking for approval to amend our 10-month calendar to reflect an early dismissal on Friday, December 20th. But before you consider that, for the record, I would like to share how it is that we got here. As it has always been done, a calendar committee was put in place to discuss and agreed upon a 10-month calendar for this academic year, as well as next academic year. The calendar committee was comprised of 5 members, 1 cabinet member, 1 member of the School Administrators Association, and 3 members of the New Haven Federation of Teachers. The committee met from the end of December to mid-February and agreed on this year's calendar options for this year and for next year. NHFT shared the calendars with their membership for a vote during the window of February 26th and March 1st. On March 11, I presented and you unanimously voted for the calendars agreed and voted on by the NHFT, which included Monday, December 23rd as an early release day. On April 5th, NHFT president requested a meeting to discuss revising December 23rd to a no school day. Between April 9th and June 3rd, NHFT president, SAA president, and cabinet member agreed upon revising the 24-25 calendar to December 23rd as a no school day and December 20th as a full day of school. On June 10th, I presented and you unanimously voted for the revised 24-25 calendar. On July 12th, NHFT president stated that according to NHFT contract, a half day is required prior to a break, and that NHFT wanted the half day to occur on December 20th and December 23rd to begin the holiday break. Between July 13th and August 9th, NHFT president, cabinet member, and I agreed that a half day was required prior to break and options were discussed. On October 15th, I presented to you the calendar agreed and voted on by the NHFT membership in March. Later on, we heard public commentary on how other districts have no school on Monday. I am now presenting to you the amended calendar that is before you, again, which reflects an early dismissal on Friday, December 20th. But for the record, I wanted the public and you to understand all the work that went into this collaborative process. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Negron. Mr. Wilcox?
Yes, I move we approve the amended 2024-2025 academic calendar that reflects an early release on December 20, 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox and Ms.
Second.
Downer. And Ms. Downer, any discussion?
Yes.
Dr. Joyner?
I hope that we don't make this mistake again. The board would never unanimously approve a calendar that was not approved first by the teachers union and administrators union. When we approved the calendar unanimously, we approved it with the knowledge that both entities had consented to what we were approving. And then to come back in a meeting and throw it back in our lap is really problematic. I certainly can forgive this time, but I'm not going to be anybody's target. And I'm not going to do anything unethical. And I would never approve a calendar that did not have the support of any of our unions, because I am very pro-union. But next time, let's get it right. And let's not come back and act as if the board did something wrong, because we did not.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Mayor Elicker, did you raise? No, okay. Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll vote to approve the amended 2024-2025 academic calendar. which reflects the 12/20 early release date. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Ms. Downer,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Mr. Musser,
Yes.
Ms. Colon,
Yes.
Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. And so that item passes. And we'll move on to finance and operations. Mr. Wilcox?
Yes, first checking in, see if anybody would like anything moved separately. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make the motion here, and I move that we approve the 1 abstract, the 6 agreements, the 7 amendments, the 4 purchase orders, and the 1 contract that appear on our agenda, and that was recommended by the Finance and Operations Committee.
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox and Dr. Yarborough. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote to approve the F and O items. Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough?
Yes.
Dr. Joyner?
Yes.
Ms. Downer?
Yes.
Dr. Benitez?
Yes.
Ms. Colon?
Yes.
Mr. Musser?
Yes.
Mayor Elicker?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well, and so that item passes. And we now move on to the students' report. Mr. Musser, Ms. Colon?
The Google slide. My bad, sorry. I guess I could start off by saying today I'm going to be presenting a proposal that I've been working on for the last month or two. We have brought this to the Citywide Student Council and it was unanimously passed. All students voted yes that I present this. And I'm hoping to vote on it early January and bring it to the board to hopefully get it passed. Next one. Okay, yeah, we're good. Next slide, sorry. Right, so the strategic operations plan passed by the superintendent, one of the priorities was the culture and climate, was to improve culture and climate. And one of the strategies mentioned was increasing student engagement and empowerment. But what about some of our obstacles that are in the way to increase our, or just in general, better our school's culture and climate? One of those things is that me and Janelle have trouble representing all 20,000 students in NHPS. We struggle to go to every individual school, along with the high schools, which there are 9 of them. We struggle to consistently meet with multilingual learners, students who may not be active in their community, and students who may feel disenfranchised and suffer from absenteeism. This limitation raises a fundamental question. How can we adequately represent the district when we don't have the resources or the time to do so?
So we gave student council members a Google survey at Citywide. In total, we got 117 responses. All students were represented and answered a statement with a scale.
Yes. So all schools were represented, every single high school that is, and they were given a statement and they were supposed to score on a Likert scale. So if they strongly disagree with something, agreed, neutral, disagreed, strongly disagreed. And we found that some of the most active students in our district feel that the BOV doesn't address their needs, and barely a quarter agree that there are clear ways to access and communicate to the Board of Education. With these dominant narratives, how can we develop a strong culture in our schools? Next slide, please. So this is chart 1. the question was, does the Board of Education address students' needs and improve their school experience? The majority of people said they strongly disagreed or disagreed, with only 15 responses saying that they agreed or strongly agreed. The second chart represents how students feel like they have easy ways to access the Board of Education. The majority of students disagree, as you can see. So what do we need? We need a way for students to feel connected to their district, and a procedure that engages students, and a way for the Board of Education to receive consistent qualitative data that is representative of the district on a monthly basis. So my proposal, the student liaison proposal, answers just that. A liaison will be in every single school. They will do 5 to 10 interviews per month. At the end of the month, they will create a qualitative report and send it to the student representatives, who will then synthesize the report, and it will show up in the meeting or show up in the report that I'm doing just now. So if this would be passed, I would be receiving qualitative data monthly from every single school, and I would be able to share it to all of you. There'll be bi-weekly meetings where these people or these liaisons will meet with mentors to ensure that the data is quality. The mentors will walk them through it and ensure that they're asking unbiased questions and following ethics to ensure that they're not disrespecting those who are interviewing. And it will be an internship with the Board of Education.
We're on this one, right? Okay. So what this will accomplish for the board is enhancing depth of student reports. This way, we're able to get qualitative data through structured interviews with all people in each school. And we get to see more into schools' unique challenges, and we get a clearer picture of student needs and concerns. And we're also able to foster stronger connections and understanding more school environment. And the data being collected makes this all more meaningful. And we're able to demonstrate the BOE's commitment to students. And by this, we can directly address narratives that the BOE is disconnected by showing that student voices are not only heard, but actively sought and prioritized.
So what about students? How will this benefit them? So as you know, like I mentioned before, these students will be collecting data. So they'll be learn skills in data literacy, collection, and synthesizing. And these are all professional skills that are in demand in the job market. Not to mention that these will also help them in their college process, as they'll be able to put a really strong extracurricular down. Students will also be actively engaged in the process and feel more heard by the board because it's easier to access, and they have a direct way to have their voice heard through these interviews. And we're also empowering students, because if we didn't have a system like this, we wouldn't be able to, with a system like this, we'd be able to hear more students with these direct interviews. We'll have liaisons seeking out students suffering from absenteeism, seeking out students who may feel that may feel nervous because they don't speak English very well. With the student liaison, we can ensure that all students are heard. And by ensuring that all students are heard, we empower more students. Next slide, please. So I think we should implement this proposal because it aligns with the NHPS strategic operation plan by enhancing school culture, by promoting inclusivity and amplifying student voice. It also takes steps to some of our biggest obstacles that we face as a district that hinder us from improving our school culture. It actively allows us to also engage students within our community while facilitating the growth of their skills that are in demand for the job market today. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Musser and Ms. Colon, for the presentation. Questions or comments for either Ms. Colon or Mr. Musser? Dr. Yarborough? And then Dr.
Yes.
Joyner?
Thank you. Really good job. So I appreciate the presentation, how you presented it, and also the steps you took ahead of time to connect with all the representatives at the schools. Thank you for tying it into the district priorities, identifying the obstacles, and presenting solutions that you see may work. So thank you very much for doing this. I have one question and one suggestion. My question is the internship role, I'm trying to understand why the internship role needs to be formally approved. Is it a paid role that you're looking for each of the schools? And my suggestion is in reference to representation, in addition to interviewing 5 to 10 students per school, which I think is still an underrepresented pool each month, maybe add to that a survey similar to the Google survey, perhaps, that you use for the 117 or so responses, perhaps translate it into different languages. And if you add that each month, and do it in a way that is accessible to all the students, connected and disconnected, that might be a way, in addition to the structured interviews, that all student voices can be heard in terms of those who reply to that. So thank you again for presenting this. I look forward to hearing the next steps for it.
Thank you, Dr. Yarborough. Dr. Joyner?
I actually met with John Carlos to discuss this, and I heartily endorse it. But I'm going to also make some suggestions that I made to him in keeping with what Dr. Yarborough said. First of all, the students are going to need training. We're going to have to start simply if we are able to do this, and we ought to try to integrate it through perhaps a class or extra credit. It probably would be best done in a sociology class or a psychology class, and we ought to work with our teachers to try to figure out ways in which we can teach students basic qualitative survey rules. We also need a glossary, because when you say the board, are you talking about the policymakers, or are you talking about the staff, or are you talking about everybody? All of our staff, because culture is very sensitive, and almost anybody can disrupt a culture. The other thing I caution John Carlos is focusing more only on adults, because the peer culture in the school may have a greater impact on the culture than adults. The other thing that I said to him was that it really starts at the classroom level, because you have multiple cultures. You have classroom culture, you have grade level culture, you have broader school culture. And then, of course, since we have an open system, you also have the culture of the community in and around the school. Some schools are located in communities that are less susceptible to negative influences than others. Some students go to school in cities that are more susceptible to outside influences than others. And so there are a number of factors, and that's where we have to talk about variables and driving forces and restraining forces. So in terms of a phase-in, we would first have to agree on some basic ideas about survey research. Dr. Yarborough mentioned some of them, but the whole notion of stratified sampling, the whole notion of making sure that questions are valid and reliable questions. And John Carlos, I applaud you more than I could ever say for your conversation with me about ethics. Because when you do surveys, you're not trying to gotcha people. You're trying to get information that will help you improve the situation. It's almost like a medical exam. If you went to the doctor's office and the doctor blamed you for having a cold, then you would probably not want to go back. I know I wouldn't. And so we should be very clear that what we're trying to do here is not to blame anybody or point fingers, but we're trying to do a rigorous examination of the forces in our environment that either accentuate a positive culture and are the ones that drive those feelings down. And I have a lot of confidence in John Carlos's ability to lead this process. This is his second year on the board. He's very bright and able. And our new student board member, I plan to come to your school. Anthony Fiore asked me to come and meet with you, and I'll do that. And this is a good opportunity for us as elders to try to help these young folk use the right methodology, design the right questions, get the answers, analyze the answers, and report back. And I actually think that there ought to be a way in which they could get some type of academic credit for this. We can't afford to pay you, but nobody's paying us. I get my kicks from working with you, John, and with all the students and with my peers. So I would strongly support this, but I think that we need to really work it out and maybe start small and see if we can build some momentum to really make this thing something that's really useful and that will help us improve our system. I'm done.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Dr. Benitez? Does she have her hand? Do you have your hand?
Yes,
up? I can't
yes,
see. Okay.
Yes, I have my hand. Let me lower it. Yes, good evening. I am very impressed. I really like to see our students actually creating opportunities for you to improve the climate in your school and also the climate and the family that we should be in this district. I am wondering, I have one question. These internships are a 1-year internship, I mean a 10-month, or is it a full year? Only during the time in school? What's your vision for it? Is it a only the work of getting the information from students, or are they going to be working every morning, maybe perhaps at entry and exit, so people see them somewhere in the building? I'm wondering of that structure, and also how can I be an intern for 4 years, or is it only for seniors? And would that be, you might have mentioned this, I missed that. And the other thing is, as Dr. Joyner mentioned, the students in an internship need to have some sort of a person that they are learning from. And I'm wondering who that person, or what's the role that you hope would be the mentor for this internship? Sort of, is it the principal? Is it a social studies teacher? Maybe the civics teacher? Is it a counselor? I'm wondering that. And also wondering if an internship will be available in every high school and middle school. Just, those are my questions.
All right. So the first question was, I think from Dr. Yarborough, is why do we need to pass this? I think the reason why we need to pass this is that if one of those mentors is with a union, they would also need a stipend. Is that to my understanding, or is there another? I mean, I feel like it's a role in the Board of Education, so I assumed it need to be passed. Maybe I'm wrong. Am I wrong about that? I don't know.
No, I think it would.
You don't think
I think so.
You think so?
Mhm.
For Dr. Benitez, about the internship duration, in my proposal, which I'm sorry if you didn't receive it, my bad. My goal is to get sophomores or juniors and for them to be in an internship for 2 to 3 years so we can build them up. And my vision is that this will be a tool for the Board of Education to use. If one of the board members has a question, they can send it to the student representatives. The representatives and the mentors can make unbiased questions based off the board member's inquiry. And then those unbiased questions can make it to those schools where those liaisons can ask those students questions. And by the end of the month, you'll have school-specific qualitative data. and you'll get those answers in those students' reports. So that's my vision for this role. It's a machine for the Board of Education to get consistent student input while also developing the skills of the students themselves. For the role of the mentor, in my proposal in the logistics section, I think the mentor would have to be able to educate the liaisons for basic data literacy, ethics, and overall help them overcome obstacles that they face. For example, if a student isn't fluent in a certain language, they'll be able to, help find a teacher who might be fluent in that language to help them facilitate the conversation. But also that might go into one of the questions Dr. Yarbrough has about the Google surveys. I also want to utilize Thought Exchange, the AI used by the superintendent, which can actually translate questions. I think what 100 questions around that number, and we could translate those questions into the said language and be able to help our liaisons in that process. Did I miss anything? Those are the questions.
Thank you very much.
Oh, right. Oh, sorry, my bad. Yeah, one more question if it's going to be. So I think my vision for now is that it will be in every high school. I think we should at least pilot this program for the high school, and then eventually, maybe if you really wanted to, bring it to the middle schools. But for now, I want to start off with the high schools.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Wilcox and then Ms. Downer.
Yes, thank you. So thank you for the presentation and for the new draft of this. I recommend getting a copy sent electronically to all the board members and to the superintendent so that could get posted with the meeting materials for tonight's meetings so that anybody else can take a look at this. Do appreciate the additional materials that are added to this draft versus previous drafts, like utilization of Thought Exchange or other software programs that we might have access to help facilitate the question answering. I think a lot of the comments that have been coming in this discussion period have been great. I highly recommend continuing the conversations with the administration as to how this would work, roll out, what resources would be needed so that we can see how best to get this done. Do support, obviously, getting more input into this. And I think it might be interesting for us just to be thinking individually, but also with the administration and others, that if we were going to be asking some of these questions that as you described, what might those questions be? How would we actually utilize this so that we can, start to build out so that we can think about to make it real. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Ms. Downer.
Thank you for your presentation. I just wanted to just clarify, you said you polled maybe 179 students?
So the COI Student Council meetings are comprised of all the student councils in NHP or all high school student councils in NHPS. We polled 117 students.
Okay, so my only concern is, the student reps was those the students that were polled? Would you say?
The student
The
councils.
student council reps?
Yeah, yeah.
So, I'm thinking about, along the lines with Dr. Yarbrough and, Dr. Joyner said, just to how do we engage the other students, get a wider student population with the questions. And, I don't know if 5 to 10 interviews would do it. And I know Mr. Wilcox was stating that there's other software that we can use. We can poll through Zoom, and we can use the system that Dr. Negron used earlier. It's sort of like different ways of capturing the data and also ensuring that all the students in the groups have a fair chance of being included. Because those student reps may not be engaged, and I'm a little concerned there. If everyone is engaged, as the student reps are engaged. So I haven't really came to the school to see. So next time when I visit the school, I will definitely point out the student reps and basically, have a small conversation with them, telling them who I am. Of course, there's ways to get in touch with me, but I'm just concerned that every student is having a fair chance to be included in surveys.
Right. So, I mean, I didn't go to every single school and ask these students questions, and admittedly, it was limited to the student council members. But they are the elected representatives of their school, some of them at least. I know that a majority of schools are the elected members, so I thought it might be appropriate to just survey them. But I don't know, that kind of ties into what I was saying. If I was going to try and survey and include a population that was representative of our district, it would be very difficult to. Like, how would I get those surveys out, and how would I ensure that those specific people that I'm trying to get would be getting those surveys and actually answering them? And so I feel like the only way that I can really ensure that I'm getting representative data is through these citywide meetings. And that's why I need a resource like the liaison to get that representative data in the first place. I'm sorry if I didn't answer your question. Maybe I misinterpreted it.
No, I just really was concerned about your sampling size. It was really not even 1% of the 20,000. So you mentioned 20,000. Now you're telling me it's 117. It's way under 1%. So I just wanted to just capture the not even the majority. I think if you had captured just 25% of one class as a systematic sampling size, then that would have given us maybe the 10th grade or the 11th grade. I think we just have to tap into the resources that's available to us. And there are resources that are available to us. I mean, we do have Zoom. So I know the students have the computer in the classroom, or however it goes. We just need to, just tap into it. That's all. It's just your sampling size was pretty low.
Thank you, Ms. Downer. Dr. Joyner, is that a raised hand for now, or was that from earlier?
No, it's for now.
Okay.
John, if you remember, you and I discussed this in our meeting, that a tool like SurveyMonkey or any other related tool would allow us to survey large numbers of students. And it would also compute the responses. The other thing is that in order to get representative sample, then we can actually gear that toward the focus groups that we're trying to look at. What I want the board to understand is that it's an idea that's in formation, but on the other hand, the students don't know enough about survey research at this point. So we would have to create a fairly basic design. And if you remember, John Colas, I told you that Dr. Yarborough is pretty good at this stuff. I've actually done it with college students, the same thing. And we were able to do national surveys on what teachers viewed as the most oppositional forces in classroom. And they basically said defiance. That was the thing. And then the quality of questions. I was on a dissertation committee of a student in California who did a doctoral dissertation on school climate. I think that's useful, that you can probably take a look at that. But we would have to start simply, and recognize that not only could we find out information about how students feel about the district, but about how they feel about each other, because that's a major force in school climate, about how they feel about their families and whether or not they get those kinds of supports. I was fortunate enough to work with probably the father of quasi-experimental research, Tom Cook at Northeastern University. And I think that there are some things that we can glean from that type of qualitative research. But again, I caution you against trying to do too much too soon. And particularly in the first year, that we need to probably use the KISS theory. Keep it simple. And I won't. And that we need to make sure that, and you've done this, that it's aligned with our goals. We want to know how people feel about themselves. We want to know how people feel about their peers. We want to know how people feel about their classrooms, their schools, their communities, and what have you. Because the ecological model takes into consideration that every factor in the environment influences human behavior. And Mr. Wilcox had made it very clear when he talks about the vast discrepancy in funding between our district and even neighboring districts. And the fact that this is an activist community. So when people want raises, they're going to bring people out. When people think that certain things aren't going well, they're going to bring people out. That may not necessarily be true in a lot of, I use the term cupcake school districts. So I hope I don't offend anybody by that, but I used to always use that. So I will continue. And so the key part is to plan well, to get our act together before we do a single survey, and to have some people that have some insight into survey research take a look at the design, the methodology, and I think you have people on the board that can help you with that. I also think that there are people in local universities that can help you with that, and I think that's the way to go, personally. At least that's how I did it with college students. And you're just as bright as any college student I've ever taught. So I'm sure you can handle that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Joyner. And we'll move on to the next item, which is the superintendent's report. Dr. Negron.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Today I am going to be joined by our Executive Director of Student Services and Special Education, Ms. Tiffany Jackson. As you know, a large population of students who we serve, to be exact, 16.2% of our students are those that are identified with some type of need for special services. And we wanted to take this opportunity tonight to share not just how proud we are of how we are meeting their needs, but also to begin to unpack what it is that goes into being able to provide all of those services, particularly as we're starting to gear up for the next budget season. Want to make sure that at least folks understand that a lot of our budget goes towards special education, and wanted to take an opportunity for everyone to fully understand how it is that we fund special education. Sure, Ms. Jackson.
That's step one. But there's something where we can make for the whole. I don't want
And I promise that once we get the slide deck up, we will do this in less than 20 minutes.
And this way, I don't want to cut into the 20 minutes. We'll take this off the screen, but what I'll start off by saying is that I'm glad to have an opportunity to talk here.
Mic on? Yeah, is your mic on?
Mr. Green?
Okay, good. All right, here we go. Viviana, you're good on your end? Okay, that's okay. So as we start off the conversation, as I mentioned before, I'm thankful that we're able to have this conversation with you this evening, really just to talk about the complexities as it relates to special education services. I know board members, you do have the presentation, for those who are online. I will just continue to talk through. So one thing as we, oh, there it is. One thing, you'll drive for me? Okay. One thing, just to let you know, as we continue to, or start the conversation, right now, as of November of 2024, we have over 3,000 students who are identified as needed, who require special education services. Of those over 3,000 students, we have 303 that are in what we call an out-of-district placement. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Further, we have, of those students, 566 of those students who are dually identified, who are multilingual learners, and also students with disabilities. We also have what we call 40 of our specialized classrooms. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Those are children who, again, in some other instances would be in other very specialized schools, but we're very proud that we continue to grow our own programs in district for students who have some more complex needs and require a lot more service. In addition to that, we have 5 what we call our off-campus classroom programs. Those are programs for students ages 18 to 22, where we provide services for students, and their programs are mostly community-based, and they're working in the community and working on functional math and English during the school day. In addition to the profile of what we have, we also have a continuum of services. We educate students from a range from what we call co-teaching services, meaning that our students are educated within our general education settings, to what we call, again, I'll talk a little bit further about our out-of-district placements for students who have significantly complex needs and need to be in schools that will meet their needs, all the way through students who are in hospital settings. As you continue to look, you can go ahead, and Viviana, and go to the next one. A range of services that we have for our students. We have services range in social work. We have behavioral supports. We have behavioral specialists. We have occupational therapists, physical therapists. We have programs that support students with visual impairments and hearing impairments. We have specialized programs for students with autism spectrum disorders, multiple disabilities, multiple handicapped, visual impairments, et cetera, et cetera. And as I mentioned to you before, an 18 to 22 program for students with transition needs. As we start to look at our data, Viviana, if you could just move it through a couple of slides forward. If you look here, we know that we continue to talk, right? Folks continue to talk about a decline in overall enrollment. But one thing I will tell you, even though we've had a decline in overall student enrollment, we've had an incline in students with disabilities. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see that even for our students with disabilities, one of the things I will tell you, Viviana, you can go to the next one. Okay. Even with the students that we have with disabilities, the complexity of the students, even though the increase has not been steep, the complexity of the students that we do have continue to increase. If you take a look, this is the data trend, as I mentioned before. That was the trend at the end. This is looking at right now our students with disabilities across different disability classifications. If you look at the number for students with autism spectrum disorders, looking at students with learning disabilities, again, the numbers of students who require some additional supports, that number continues to grow. As I mentioned, the primary classification of autism, again, I'm going to talk about that in one slide where you're looking at all of our data trends, but again, that number continues to rise over a period of time if you continue to look. And I just pulled out a couple of classifications. I've also pulled out the classification of learning disabilities. You'll see that number has gone down a little bit. And what we think is that there's been a lot of work on the science of reading. There's been a lot of work on how we're working within small group instruction within our general education classrooms, which in turn, for those students who have some other challenges, specifically as it relates to reading instruction, that those students are being serviced within their general education classrooms and aren't in need of specialized instruction. Okay, if we look at the next, just giving you some trends, as I mentioned to you before, the overall trend, there's been an upward trend in classification of students with disabilities, looking at our students with intellectual disabilities, students with autism, students with multiple disabilities, that number continues to grow. And the reason why I pull that out is because those students are the students where it requires a lot more service delivery to educate those students. And again, we're very proud that we're able to do that in district, whereas in some other smaller districts and some other places, those may be students who are in very specialized schools. Some information for consideration. Again, the increased number of students with what we call, the term is low incidence disabilities. I mentioned them again. Autism, multiple disabilities, intellectual disabilities. Again, we have a continuum and a range within our district, but we continue to educate our students. The number of students that we continue to get on a yearly basis exceeds over 150 students. We have very, very great demands. We hear about teacher shortages for special education. That situation or that need is that much dire. There's a significant shortage of special education teachers, and coupled with that, for special education, nationally speech and language pathologists. So again, those services where we've seen that there's a complexity of student need and increase in the complexity, the folks who service our students, again, continue to be a significant shortage area. And I'm just going to go through, we can go up another one, if we remember, the finance team some time ago talked a little bit about the staffing and the gap. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about this and just pause for a second just to explain this. So this is just an example of staffing at the high school. If we were to take a look, if we look at national trends of caseloads of special education teachers in our surrounding areas and nationally, we talked about what is it that we would need to be able to provide a service model that would be comparable to others around. And one of the things that we know right now, we talked about, for our special education teachers who teach what we call resource, pulling out small groups of students or pushing into general ed classrooms, a 1-to-20 ratio would be what we were looking at. We were looking at in our specialized classrooms, a 1-to-10 ratio. We're not there. In our specialized classrooms, we try not to go over by much more because we don't want to compromise the integrity of the programs. But just even with this sample, again, from just looking at a high school example, you'll see that the need continues to grow, and that's for special education teachers. Coupled with that, when we're looking at para educators, it's very challenging for us to obtain paraprofessionals. I know we hear a lot of information about the pay for paraprofessionals, but paraprofessionals is a significant challenge. So even if you take a look right now, some of these numbers have even increased more so. Even just taking a one staffing example, again, if we were to take a look at the number of paraprofessionals that we would require specifically in our specialized programs, we would require a host of more paraprofessionals to support our students within our classrooms. And as we go through, we've heard this before, the significant increase of students who have social, emotional, behavioral challenges that really require some additional counseling support. Looking at just a snippet from school social workers, looking at a 1 in 250 caseload ratio. Again, you continue to see in just this particular example, the number of staff that we would require to meet that particular guideline. So if at all of the samples that I talked to you about, again, looking at 30 more special education teachers, 65 paraprofessionals, 16 social workers, 6 school psychologists, 20 speech and language pathologists, and 11 school counselors, it would be in excess of $7.8 million, enough just in special education to really fund special education in New Haven, that in the manner in which we believe that it should be funded. So now we're going to talk just a little bit about the allocations and spending for special education. So we know that spending has risen over the past 5 years. We have 2 sets of dollars that come into the district. We'll talk a little bit about the federal money that comes in. So it's in excess of $7 million for for special funds, and then we'll also talk about general funds. You know, again, that's the money that comes from our tax base in general funds and how we're supporting special education. So right now it's in excess $7 million. That's the money that comes from the federal government to the state and then comes to New Haven Public Schools. And so what you will see for the allocation first of that $7 million, if you take a look, you can go, Viviana, to the next slide. So in that particular pie chart, you'll see that the majority of what we're spending, this is the pie chart version, and then I'll give you a little bit more details. The majority of what we're spending is really in staffing. Is staffing, benefits, and then contracts. That's where the majority of the money goes for just that $7 million that we're talking about that comes from the federal government, okay? The next slide will just tell you about the largest expenditures. As I mentioned before, it's staffing. So essentially, you'll see the staff that we have here that's listed, 27 special education teachers, 2 social workers, 2 speech and language pathologists, 34 paraeducators, contracts. One of the things that you will see, I'm just going to point this out for a moment because there's an increased need. You'll see the contract that we have for All Point Nursing, Lifeline Cares, and Pediatric Services. Those contracts are for individual nursing care for our students. Now, we have nurses in our schools, but there are some children, because they may have, for instance, we have some children who may be on a feeding tube, or there's some children who even at home get 24-hour care where we have to provide them with their own individual nurse, not the nurse that's in the school, but their own individual nurse. We have to provide those services to our students. And again, if we want to educate our students in our district, those are the services that we have to provide. So I just wanted to just explain a couple of the services that we provide here. And then also too, you'll see from Southern, continuing our efforts to attract and also provide alternative routes for recruitment of special education teachers. Okay. If you go up in the preschool allocation, it's pretty small. Again, it's $154,000. Pretty much that's to support a few paraprofessionals in our district. The next, as I mentioned to you before, is the bigger allocation. This is, again, the money that comes. This is when we talk about our general fund budget, the amount of money that we're spending for special education. So you'll hear, even from the finance department, talking about in the lines, a tuition line. And really, what is that? The tuition, as I mentioned before, those are the students who, again, may require being in a very highly specialized program. These are children who, I'll just give an example of one particular child who, that child is so dysregulated that it's a safety risk to have them even in any of our schools, right? Even though we're excited about the numbers of programs that we have in district, these are students who require even higher staff to student ratio than what we provide here, even in our own specialized programs. Again, they may require one-to-one in some regards all day, in addition to having something like a behavior specialist or a board certified behavioral analyst working with them. They have to be in a facility that's able to provide some safety for students, because in our own public schools, that may not be conducive for some students. So when you see that tuition line, those are students who, if at all costs that we're not able to maintain safety or provide them with the education here within our public schools, that we are sending them to a highly specialized program. I talked a little bit about the same way that we talked about contracts. Again, same kinds of things that happen here, a lot of speech and language contracts. We don't have, as I mentioned before, speech and language is a national shortage area, so we're heavily reliant on contractors for speech and language, and also for things like very specialized behavioral support. And with that, as I mentioned before, the students who, again, are the students that require programming and out-of-district tuition, comes also a cost for specialized transportation. So those students, in addition to paying for tuition, we also have a transportation cost as well. And then you see a general transportation cost. We have many of the students, remember I was mentioning our specialized programs that we have here. Many of our students, we provide them with specialized vehicles within district as well as a cost, okay? We know that the majority of the special education costs that we have right now really is rooted in the tuition costs that that I've mentioned before. Okay. You can see the increase in the tuition cost over time. And then I just want to direct you to this slide coming up here. It's not that the increase in tuition costs has gone up significantly, but it's not because the student enrollment out of district tuition has gone like this. The cost for the same number of students in the same places has gone up significantly, right? So it may have been, we're not talking about 3%, right, over time for cost of living increases. We're talking in some cases 11% increases over a period of time in same programs, which drives a huge cost for tuition. Things to consider, and these are some of the things that I think when we're talking about budget and things that are unpredictable, one thing that I will tell you for the tuition line is highly unpredictable. We have a lot of transients here in our district. Oftentimes, when I'm talking about some of the specialized placements, that the tuition rates are not set until after the budget cycle. So sometimes we're trying to, we can't project that this is going to be the cost because a couple different things. The cost is changing. We've set the budget. The other things that happens is the number of students that we have that require specialized programs. We continue, even we were in October and there were 23 students that we had that came in new that required specialized programs. Again, we are proud that we have programs. We continue to build more programs every year. And as I mentioned before, we just built 3 this year. And with that, there's an increased cost to the district. That's an unpredictable cost. It's not a cost of money that we've set aside for that. But every year we continue to have that. And just gave an example, the end that if we have students, for instance, we may have 5 students that may be coming into our district with a cost of $150,000 per one student in one of the very specialized schools. That's $600,000 that's not been accounted for in any budget. And that's just an example. The number is actually higher than that at times. But my point in bringing this up is that we don't know sometimes what the cost will be, and really the impact on the budget can be huge because the tuition costs are relatively high. I just wanted to also talk just a little bit about some budget mitigation strategies. And I wanted to first start, you'll see the disclaimer at the beginning, is that it's not that we're trying to reduce any service that we have. What we're trying to do is really look at how we can provide a shift service so that it's more so in district and that we're not reliant on contractors, right? Because when we have to outsource services, it costs us a lot more money. And when we're not able to have our own staffing, it also costs us a lot more money as well. So some of the things short term is really continue to make a focus and concerted effort on shifting from high cost contractors to full-time staffing. Again, looking at speech and language pathology and school psychology, how we make sure that we're maintaining folks, continuation of our in-district programs. The number of programs, and I tell you we have 40 programs in district. If we did not have those programs, the tuition costs that I mentioned before would be that much greater because those students would then be placed in a highly specialized school. So again, we're going to continue to make sure that we have those students in district. And we want to make sure because it's at the last resort when we're having students that are going in any other school outside of our own school. So again, that's for us, we want to make sure that we maintain that. And then long term, one of the things that we want to do as opposed to just having students who require a specialized program or school outside of New Haven Public Schools is we want to be able to create our own in-district school program. So with that, if there's anyone who has any questions, that's it for me.
Questions or comments for Ms. Jackson? Thank you for the presentation, by the way. Dr. Joyner?
Yes, I have a comment. First of all, Tiffany, let me thank you for your courageous and highly professional service. I actually believe you're the best. What I don't believe is that the public has a clear understanding of the kids that we serve that are special needs kids. And when we look at the changes in PL 94-142 to the Americans with Disabilities Act, particularly systems like ours are increasingly having to take responsibility for children with really, really, really profound needs. And I want to give you a brief example. There's a 4-year-old child in our district who was born weighing 1 pound. Let me say that again. There's a 4-year-old child in our district who was born weighing 1 pound, and he struggles with eating. Over a 14-day period during school hours, he only ate 4 times, ate or drank water 4 times. His mother almost lost him at birth, and you can imagine a child weighing 1 pound at birth. And thus far, we have not figured out a way to get that child the kind of support in the classroom that would help him with eating. And I think if you think about Dr. Yarborough holding Nathan tonight while he's meeting, I think the people on this board believe that there's no child that's expendable, and that we should do everything in our power to preserve the lives of all of our children. This child happens to be incredibly bright. He reads, he has a high level of insight, and for all we know, he might be a person that grows up and discovers a cure for cancer. If you think back to the first grader in Newport News who shot the teacher, I know a great deal about that because my niece was the special ed administrator in charge of that. And that child had to have an adult with him, his mother, his grandmother, or his grandfather, every day he was in school. The day he shot the teacher, there was no adult present. And the fact that he was able to get his mother's gun is another issue. But I want the public, I'm actually speaking to the people out there who are listening and to reporters, to understand the complexity of trying to meet the needs of all of our children on a shoestring budget. And it's going to require a massive undertaking to help the state understand that if education is a creature of the state, then the state has to do right by poorly resourced communities like ours to make sure that we obey the law and that we educate these children in the least restrictive environment. And it's not just about learning disabilities, it's about biological limitations that children come into the world with, but that should not prohibit them from getting the best education that we can give them. And that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Dr. Benitez?
Thank you, Tiffany. I just want to clarify the funding we have for special education is federal that comes from the state, and I'm assuming also general funds. Is there any other type of funding that is available for special education programming? And do parents have access to any kind of funding to support their child beyond the school day? If there's other kinds of funds that people can access or do access?
So for us, we have the 2 funding sources, the federal money that goes through the state that comes to us, and then also what we have in general funds, that's it. Many of our parents, just to answer your question about parents and what can they access, there are some parents who through insurance do receive some supplemental services. So there are some parents who may get occupational therapy or some individual speech therapy. As I mentioned, nursing support above and beyond the day, but generally speaking, that's usually through insurance, not through any additional funding source.
I lost you.
Oh, what was the last thing you heard me say, Dr. Benitez?
Oh.
Can anyone else online hear me? I just want to make sure before I repeat.
Now I can hear you.
You can hear me? So what I was saying, Dr. Benitez, for special education, you're correct. There's two funding sources. There's a federal government who, through the state, sends money to us, which was in excess of $7 million. And then everything else is what we have here in our general funds. And for parents, usually there's some supplemental services that parents do access at home, like speech, nursing, occupational therapy, physical therapy, but that's generally done through insurance, not an additional funding source.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Benitez. Mayor Elicker?
Thank you, Madam President. And or Madam Chair, I'm sorry I can't be there in person tonight. I'm doing some childcare at home. I had a couple quick questions. Ms. Jackson, there's this federal funding that's around $7 million. The general fund's around $35 million. Your graph says the total spend is over $70 million. Maybe I just missed something there, but is there another pool of funding or?
There's not another pool of funding. I think that when we pull the information that we have, even just with the expenditure, there's some more information or some more, actually the general funds is a little bit more than the 35 million, Mayor Elicker.
Okay. It'd be, I don't want to cause a lot of extra work, but it's
Nope.
just helpful in our general conversations with, as we advocate for some help from the state on this.
Sure.
Have a good idea of the overall spend. And I just wanted to note to the other board members that one of the things that the 119K Commission has really pushed for is additional special education funding coming from the state to support municipalities, because many municipalities are in a similar circumstance where they're really struggling to push these funds. And the educational cost share formula currently doesn't have special education as one of the metrics. And so the proposal that the legislature would be reviewing is to have special education as part of the ECS cost share. And the other quick question I had, and I may have missed it, I'm sorry, is why is the number of special needs children going up in our district? Is that a trend that other municipalities are seeing? Is that because more kids are identified or properly diagnosed, or what is?
I think for us, it's really not just what we're doing in district. I think the transients also talks to that and the number of students that we have coming in. Our percentage, quite honestly, Mayor Elicker, is not as high as some other like districts. So, again, we think we are getting it right in making sure that the students who require service are getting the service. But I do know that, again, as I'm mentioning to you before, the number of students that we that are coming in that are outside of New Haven is a number that's not controlled. So we do have some students within district. We don't think that's the source of the rise. We know it also has to do with some of the transients in our district as well.
I still don't quite understand why, but maybe we're not sure what's going on there as far as the change. But it seems odd to me that our overall population is going down, but the number of students with special needs are going up.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mayor Elicker. Dr. Benitez? And then Mr.
Yeah.
Wood.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Ms. Jackson, I'm just thinking about what Mayor Elicker is asking, and what I'm thinking is because we do provide very good services and are very creative in supporting our special education and any other children, we may be very likable, and people may decide to pay even if they have to pay a higher rent, may decide to come into the city in order to receive services. We also have the magnet program does have bring opportunity for people to come into the city, even if they're not living in the city. So, but again, I think is that we have made, and credit to Ms. Jackson and her team, that we have made the department a strong, desirable kind of service provider that I think it's helping having having other people coming to the city, I am not sure that we would be over identifying. I hope we're not going that way, because I know that was something we worked really hard on, and knowing Miss Jackson and her team, I'm sure they are making sure that teachers and teams at schools are aware of the need to do MTSS and make sure that whoever they refer are students who indeed need a closer look, and when they qualify, my assumption, and I hope we continue to do that, is that they qualify because they need the services.
No, that is correct. And Mayor Elicker, to your point, and just to let you know, the state, if we were to look at the trend, it's in line with what we're seeing, that there's been an increased trend even in the state of Connecticut. But what I will do or could do for a discussion even at a later point is really to take a look at the number of students that we've had, even across our own schools, versus the number of students who may have come in. And not just from the magnet programs, but even from what we've had even coming in even after October 1st. And that number has been large.
Thank you, Dr. Benitez. Mr. Wilcox?
So yes, thank you, Ms. Jackson, for the presentation. I've always been impressed over the years because I'm, in finance and operations, we see all those individual contracts that you were referring to before, like for, someone that requires 24-hour nursing care and the part, while they're during their school day, and the outplacement tuition that we pay to send folks to places for more specialized care. So do appreciate that. Thank you. And just one thing that did stand out, and I did some of my standard calculations here, but if we just had, you do all this with below state average per pupil funding in the district, and if we just had the state average of per pupil funding, there'd be $13 million more dollars, which would completely erase the $7+ million that we would need to fully fund the special education budget to have the people in place to do the hard work of working with these students who have every right to an education, as my children did and our student board members do now, et cetera. So do appreciate that. And I won't even mention beyond just saying if we had Hamden's of 53 million, the difference between the per pupil funding between our two fine cities would completely erase our staffing deficit that would meet a tremendous number of needs in this district. And if we had Greenwich's and the $126 million more, we would also have all our building problems solved too. So we get what we pay for in so many ways. And I'm grateful that you all go above and beyond to stretch those dollars against the very large needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Okay, seeing no further discussion, Dr. Negron, Ms. Jackson, does that conclude your report?
That completes the report for tonight.
Okay, thank you. And we'll move on to teaching and learning. Dr. Joyner?
Well, this will give me a chance to respond to something. I don't have a report, but this is directly related to teaching and learning. The proportion of students in special education is not static as the population increases. In fact, if you go on the Education Department website, you'll see that across the country, there's a significant increase in the proportion of students diagnosed with special needs. I can send that to you. There's some other issues that special educators know about, is that DSM-3, well, DSM-3 is probably DSM-23 now, but the diagnostic criteria has changed, which makes more students eligible for special needs. And of course, with the Individual with Disability Education Act, it's a mandate. It's not something we can choose to do. And so we also have an increase in the population of students receiving special education over the last couple of decades. In fact, I didn't know special ed needs kids when I was in school, but they were there because we hadn't diagnosed them. And we used to just think that they acted funny or that it was their fault or whatever. And now we know that it's biologically driven. And of course, cities like ours face a tremendous challenge And I don't know if it's gonna get any better over the next 4 years, but there are real reasons for growing numbers of kids being diagnosed with special needs. And it's nobody's fault, but it just is. I don't have a report for teaching and learning. I think I gave a pretty exhaustive report last time. So I'm done.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Questions or comments for Dr. Joyner? Okay. Facilities Naming Committee report, Dr. Joyner?
No report.
Okay. Thank you. Head Start report, Mr. Wilcox?
The next two items will be brief because we haven't met since the last meeting. The Head Start, our next meeting is, I believe, December 19th, and the Citywide Building and Stewardship Committee, our next meeting is this coming Thursday, the 12th.
And Finance and Operations?
Very briefly, we did meet as we typically do. In addition to going over the action items, one thing I think that'll be of interest is we talked about an overview of the FY 25-26 budget process, and Ms. Hannons presented her first draft of a calendar of presentations leading up to public meetings, Board of Education review, and review by the Board of Alders and their committees. We had good discussions about changes this year in terms of the presentation and increasing the amount of public comment time, perhaps using thought exchange or other types of workshops so that folks can have a better understanding of the challenges, things that get hidden in the large numbers in a large district that requires a large amount of money is the below average per pupil funding that really makes it so that you're trying to stretch what looks like a large amount over an amount per student that is not at the state average. So we had a good discussion about that.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Questions or comments for Mr. Wilcox? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the governance report. Dr. Benitez?
Yes, good evening, Board of Education members and the public. We met on November 26th to discuss our procurement procedures proposed by the Finance and Operations and a small group of consulting members of the staff who supported the process, both from the city and the New Haven Public Schools. We will reconvene on December 17th to continue the conversation to further review recommendations proposed. As you know, this is something that we hold dearly because it is how we get to engage others in providing the services that our students receive, otherwise, whether it's direct or in operations. So what I want everybody to know is that we appreciate that the Finance and Operations Board of Ed Committee has done a great job supporting our work in reviewing and revising and in making it better. So we hope that on our December 17th meeting, we will be able to refine it some more. And we want to work closely with the administration to make sure that there's a strong guidance document that accompanies this policy so that we ensure that our funds are well spent and that those things that we pay for are performed adequately. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Benitez. Questions or comments for Dr. Benitez? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the Food Service Task Group report. Dr. Yarborough?
Yes, thank you. The Food Service Task Group has an upcoming this month. And in addition to a number of the topics, one of the topics will just be an update as it relates to the school gap and the food service with families and partners in the city that will occur. So they've been strategizing and also advertising to help provide meals for school children during the school break.
Thank you, Dr. Yarborough. Questions or comments for Dr. Yarborough? Seeing none, before we move to adjourn, I would just like to wish everyone a healthy and happy holiday season.
Madam Chair,
Dr. Joyner?
a point of personal privilege, please.
Sure.
I don't think it's fair that you leave, that this might be your last meeting, and no one has commented on your unselfish service and devotion to the school system and to your community. Because I work with you very closely, I know that you play sick. You have actually run meetings when you were sick enough to just not be doing anything other than resting and taking your medication. You have postponed vacations and family business in order to make important board meetings. You have endured a number of years where we had a threat within the board. Yeah, I said it. And I think we all worked together through COVID to make the most out of what we could make the most out of. We were swimming in uncharted waters that were also shark infested. And anyone who does not appreciate a person that gives anywhere from 15, in some cases 20 hours a week as a volunteer in an operation as complex as our board should be applauded. Whatever mistakes we made together in most cases. And I think there's something to be said about patriotism regarding one's ability and willingness to serve in places where the joy comes from doing the right thing. It's not a financial reward, it's a spiritual reward. But you and I have gone through a lot of stuff, and only you and I know that. And you are a product of this school system. You weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth, but through your own hard work and dedication and commitment and perhaps a classy stubbornness, if I could put those words together, you have done a pretty good job of being the president of the board. And I thank you for that. And I hope that the whole community will try to understand what a tremendous sacrifice you made by being the president and by showing up. May God bless the rest of what you do. I think Dr. Benitez has her hand up. And Mayor Elka and Dr. Orlando.
I think I was next.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. I was hoping we could end the night without the tears.
Okay, there's nothing wrong with tears.
Well, just
Thank you. Dr. Benitez?
Yeah. First of all, I want to say that you're not going anywhere. You're going to be in New Haven. And I hope you don't block our numbers, because I'm sure we will be calling you many times. But I also want to thank you for your help in bringing me into the board, meaning that you taught me how to do things. You were patient with me in the beginning when I wanted to be a boss and I wasn't a boss. Even though I did it at closed doors, I wanted to be a boss. And I learned that my role is to be part of a team of us, one boss with a team. And I have to thank you for that. I grew a lot professionally, not just personally, with this experience. And I want to thank you for that. I also want to thank you for championing our first Latina superintendent process with a lot of regard for a just and fair process. And I thank you for that. And I'm very proud that I serve under your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Benitez.
President Rivera, you haven't called on me. May I go?
Yes.
I'm having a hard time speaking, Dr. Yarborough. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I echo what Dr. Benitez has said. She and I joined the board together, and it is very difficult to hop on a ship that is already in motion.
Yeah.
And with a lot of patience and grace, you helped me to learn to roll with the team and to be a part of a larger unit doing very important things. You have modeled so much, and I've been able to pattern my efforts and my intentions after you. And no matter how much, I didn't necessarily know there's going to be like a additional part-time job and all the hours. I didn't know that originally. But you have outworked me for sure. And there's never a scenario where I thought I was doing more than anyone else. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your example as a human being and also as a leader. And thank you very much for just your patience, your grace, your humility, your willingness to have good timing. There be times where I wanted to do things in the moment and did do things in the moment, and it would have been better to wait. And one of the things I learned from you is just how to be patient and have good timing, and to not always have to be in control of how things proceed. So thank you very much to you. Thank you to your family for all that they sacrifice for your investment in this board, in this city, in this educational system. So I appreciate you. Like Dr. Benitez, please don't block my number.
I won't.
So I will call you from different numbers. Thank you for all things. I greatly appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yarborough. Mayor Elicker?
Thanks, Madam President. It was funny when Dr. Joyner started to speak, all of our hands popped up at once because I think we were all thinking the same thing. But just want to congratulate you on an incredible 5 years. And I've seen a lot, but not all of it, because you've worked behind the scenes for a lot of this time as well as our president, and the public sees only a percentage of the work that you put in. It's not an easy time to be a public servant, period. It's not an easy time to be a member of a board of education. It's long nights and a lot of pressure, particularly throughout COVID. It was very, very challenging. We were making a lot of difficult decisions, and there was pressure from the outside, but there was also pressure on each other as board members and putting pressure from within. And you showed a steady hand, a lot of leadership, an incredible commitment. Like Dr. Joyner said, you showed up when you were sick. You showed up when you had family issues. You always showed up and put in the effort because you really care. And we're grateful for all the service that you've provided to the city of New Haven. So thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you, Mayor Elicker. Mr. Wilcox and then Ms. Downer.
Thank you. I'll be brief and don't feel the need to reiterate a lot that's already been said. I think everybody's been saying it very well. I will just say, though, that you and I came on this board at similar times. You were appointed by our previous mayor about a month previous to me. He's sworn into the board about a month previous to me. So pretty much we were going to events and meetings and things together as proposed members and then as new members and so on. So it's going to be extremely difficult to imagine not having somebody whom I've relied on so much over this time. And just wanted to tell you that I appreciate that. A lot of people think your job is easy or that there's easy solutions or why can't they just do this? Why can't they just do that? It should be simple. Come on. And those of us that are doing this understand that there's an awful lot of pressures, particularly as we're trying to deal with very important things for a lot of very important people, the students, without a lot of the resources. But I just appreciate how you have kind of kept us together and kept things moving. And so just want to say thank you very much. And I know you won't get rid of my number, and I'll just walk down the road and knock on your door if you do. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Ms. Downer.
So I wanted to say, because I'm the new one on the board, of course, and I had a short time to work with you, but I wish you all the best. And, serving is not easy. You give up your families, you give up everything to serve on this board. And of course, it's volunteer, it's not a paid board, but to give your time, I wanted to thank you. Thank you for the time that we had here together. I do want to share this quote with you,
Oh,
though.
no.
Of course, right? Remind me of the late Dr. Martin Luther King, where he said, everyone can be great because everyone can serve. And, you should be commended for the service that you have done for the New Haven Board of Education and the New Haven community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow. Oh, Dr. Negron.
If I may wrap it up. You are my first board president that I've had the honor to work with. And I have to say, how lucky am I that I was able to have someone that has been really like mentoring me in this partnership that needs to exist between a board president and a superintendent. I thank you for valuing the roles that each of us plays in our individual positions. And I think it's because of that mutual respect that I want to say that I've been successful in my first year plus. And I pray every day that whoever the next board president is going to be will be somebody like you that understands the role, and that at the end of the day it's about doing the work, because the better we work together, children win. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. I had no idea that you all felt this way, that I had impacted you all this much. And so I'm grateful for the words. I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve. And I'm hoping that I'm leaving a board that is in good shape, that it stays in good shape, and that you continue to do the great work that we've done together. And I will miss each and every one of you. And of course, I will keep your numbers and I will answer when you call. Thank you so much. If I come back for the first January meeting, please do not do this again. Thank you.
We are making no promises, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. I truly appreciate it. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox, Dr. Benitez, Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Ms. Downer,
Yes.
Ms. Colon,
Yes.
Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Night.
Show you.